cosmic level, what we call as the cosmic order, and then at the bottom, what operates as a natural order in every being, the reflection of that cosmic order is the natural order, which is the dharma. The individual's smallest interface or unit that interfaces with the collective is the family. And then you have on the right side all the institutions of the social collective, the desha, sampradaya, the desha, kula. Then on the left is the time function, which is the sampradayas, basically the inherited traditions which ensure persistence of knowledge and development of knowledge. And in the middle is the hierarchical power structure, which is the Raja, the head of the state or the root, and then the Mantranga, and then next level is the executive, which is Amatya, and all the other limbs of state. So what is in the center is the hierarchical power structure. What is on the right is the stratified, non-hierarchical institution of society. On the left is the time function. So this would be the macro view of what has been and what ideally has to come. And all this macro of institutions is basically fulfilling the human collective's purposes. And the extent to which each of them is serving that purpose, its relevance in the macro is there.
So what is this dharma and rita, that axis?
So the top is the cosmic, the bottom is the veshti, the micro. So what is cosmic? Its counterpart operating as the
So varna, okay, so that is why you said varna is cosmic in the sense it's not a societal structure.
Exactly. So now it becomes easy. In a Dharma Shastra, whatever we find as corresponding to that content, right? Whatever is about the Varnashrama and all that, obviously that is a Sanatana content. That's not a Deshakala content for us to debate or refute or throw away. But wherever there is a group interaction dynamic, those chapters are definitely coming under the Deshakala, which are up for debate and all that. So the architecture of the Dharma Shastra is clear, and once we have this clarity, we can easily apply our discrimination.
Can you define Varna here exactly? What does that mean?
Varna is basically the four Varnas that we have now. There are not always four. There have been 2 also, 3 also, 4 also. But basically, the 4 Varnas resulting in all the beings because of the 3 gunas.
So like you are saying like that is a cosmic reality, not the social construct like.
Correct. And because that is there everywhere, the devatas have, grahas have, everything have, you can see the varna. Because wherever there are 3 qualities, you will see all these varnas.
So that also means that I am born with certain combination of gunas, which is relatively permanent?
Yes and no. Guna karma is a very complex algorithm. It's been so badly oversimplified that the rhetoric has become. But essentially, what you call as jiva lakshana, your innate nature or intrinsic nature, that is an evolution over a very long period of time. I don't think it can be. So guna karma, when somebody says, it's basically the birth component is there, upbringing is there, environment is there, opportunity is there. All these put together contribute to these 2 things. So on the other hand, is there a very elaborate varna mimamsa that happens, trying to identify which label has to be put on this individual? That kind of, you don't really see any illustrative Dharma Shastra actually doing that. So which means that society really doesn't care much in terms of these labels. What is usually done is in a very transactional and situational decision. There are many spheres in human life. For that situation, for that time, what exactly has to be the decision, based on that it will be done. For instance, there are many cases, right? The Karna, not just Karna, Vidura, there are Dharma Vyadha, is there? Many cases are there. But there is no labeling or attempting at categorizing individuals by that. And then deciding that, Exactly, practically, how does and why does this happen is what we'll need to understand. Varna dharma will need to understand so that the samskara is determined. Samskara means whatever the rituals, 1640 rituals that happen for individuals. For that, this is essential because for that jiva, for that sharira, it has to be done. The samskara is very specific to the upadhi. Outside that, there has been a very bad overgeneralization of this into, that is why I say it should not be seen as a social construct. It is very specific to certain context. Beyond that, in society, all groups have their own ups and downs. Every individual has his up and down. Things are very dynamic, and decisions are going to be according to that. Or nobody. Just take Shivaji Maharaj's example, right? Nobody, his power was never in question. Whether his Modhabhisheka could happen or not was a topic of debate. You can have opinion on either side, but his power, his status, all these, were they in question any time? Did people refuse to pay him taxes because he was not so and all that? So practically how things work in society, will need to have a realistic estimate of it before, projecting expectations on how things are supposed to work. Once this clarity is there, I think we have to contextualize again by the reason why we bring the Kula, Sampradaya all separately is each determines one activity in human life. Let us say the vocation is there, the profession is there. Profession is never been really tied to Varna largely. Across Varnas people have. It has been much more tied to a Kula because a Kula has a Vritti and an Achara both. But Kula is a very small thing. Clan is a very small, localized. Yeah.
But in most of the Dharma Shastras, most of the verses are described for Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishya, Shudras, right? Descriptions.
Correct.
So if that is not a significant identity in social construct, then how do we interpret Smritis?
So it's partly prescriptive, partly descriptive. Exactly how does actually this codification come into the Dharma Shastra? We'll actually get to it. But Dharma Shastra is a codification of what people have accepted for themselves. Now, there is an Apastamba Sutra, any Apastamba tradition guy would follow that book. Why would you need a Manusmriti or a Yajnavalkya Smriti which applies to the entire collectivity? We don't technically need any such global Smriti for the entire society, right? Because everybody has his own tradition, his own code that he is following. What the Dharma Shastras largely do is they gather a summary of accepted codes for those groups across the geography, and then they generalize into these have been the accepted codes for those people. It is because those people live by those codes, now the king has to formulate these policies to enable those people. That's the whole spirit of the Dhamma Shastra.
Yeah, but then identification of me, as one of those varnas is crucial, right?
It's not crucial. It only is necessary in that context of an arbitration that requires such an identification. Otherwise, who cares?
Swadharma in this janma to able to choose the vrati and set my expectation, vibhuti sanyam, all that, right? To put myself into context. That's why I need my varna.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's a rat race, right? Like today.
Correct, so, but that is known domestically, right? You know from your family what your tradition is. That state is not connected to it in any way. State is coming into picture only when there is an arbitration required that there is a dispute.
That's true. Okay. Yes, that's the point of discussion. Yeah.
Something that is cosmic operating in every being, it can't be unaffected or not be affecting any social dynamic. It does affect social dynamic.
Falsifiability, now I want to reiterate that condition. Karl Popper said falsifiability is an important criteria for a theory, because if I make a statement which cannot be falsified, then that statement does not have any validity. For example, if I say sun rises in the east, it's such a general thing that the way it has been defined, there is no saying no to this statement. Now, I'm bringing all this because we are talking about Varna, it is for this, for that, for that, for this, but not for this, but the world has always used it for this. We have always used it to determine what I should do, what a person should do, but it is not for person, it is for Varna. If it is, it is for Kula, but if it is for Kula, then that means that if I am born in a particular Kul, then that becomes my Swadharma. But no, it is not for my Swadharma, it is for Kul's Swadharma. Now this is getting into a realm of the thing being not falsifiable.
Not
That
exactly.
means it is encompassing too many things to make any sensible assertion.
Not exactly. That is why this topic has been brought in the first place, right? So we'll need to, how do we bring clarity to the subject is the point. Yeah, so let's forget present reality. Essentially, this is a design of what could be best. Now, even by conversational idiom, right? Kula achara is there, kula vritti is there, varna dharma is there. This terminology itself is clear. There has been unnecessary confusion brought around it because, number one, our system has been interpreted as a normative system. And that is the major difference that the Brits brought. Because the British came from a normative morality scheme. So basically they codified these. I mean, that's again morning's discussion, but codification doesn't suffer primarily because of applicability. It suffers primarily because it makes the code normative. The ought, you are supposed to do this. That perception, where does it come from? Everybody knows that 90% of Brahmins, how they are not even Brahmins today. Maybe in a lesser degree, 40-50% would have been 200 years ago. It's always the case. And same applies to every group, every region also. Society doesn't operate by that ideal, right? Ideal is an ideal for a reason. So that it is aspirational for a certain group in a certain way of life.
If Varna is the cosmic view and not a social contract as such,
We'll complete this point.
So is it axiomatic or is it derived from some principles? If it's cosmic, then will it be,
It is very much derivable from the axiomatic source. That is why we put it at the cosmic level. It is part of our worldview. We look at the world as made of these three gunas.
So what logic? The logical chain of thought as to why that is cosmic is not very clear to me.
Because that's how it's been in the text.
No. So how does the text justify that?
No, axioms are not.
It is axiom exactly.
I mean, he said that it's derived from axiomatic, so I thought there is a chain of thought. But if it is axiomatic, then there will not be a chain of thought that leads to it.
So, I mean, to me, it's like, the word material is made of molecules. Now, that's an axiom, right? I mean, now, how do you derive? So, of course, so this is like the things are made of three gunas, The three gunas are required to make anything. Now, and that is why I think, although a very different topic, Varna is also, for example, if you talk to a शिल्पकार जो मूर्ति बनाता है तो कौन सा वर्ण का पत्थर लेना है deity की मूर्ति बनाने के लिए उसमें भी वर्ण देखता है. He has a mechanism.
Here I think the purpose of this slide, the way I understood, is not to get into the structuring of the society, but where does a concept belong to?
Exactly.
In the epistemology, in the 4 levels that he has designed, where does a particular tattva belong to? Varna belongs to the cosmic level, whereas a jati is not a cosmic thing. I think that is the purpose of this slide, because the other dimensions that we are discussing are actually not the purpose of this slide, and also it requires a very long exposition.
So basically what this shows is the Kula and Jati are temporal dynamics. So whatever content belongs there we'll need to see it at that level. We can't see that as something unchangeable in the texts.
For instance, there are jatis, 1500 years back. Those names don't exist today. And there are several jatis in the last 400 years which don't exist in the past. So that's why it is a more temporal reality.